pretty awful. I put some filler on to fill some spots and it's like wet. I do have this done to 220 now. It's as smooth as it's ever been in its life. The back was really terrible. Word of caution, don't use a razor blade on the rubber. I'm not too concerned about it because I have this damage. So I'm gonna make something, maybe a little spoiler or something to cover that, but otherwise it's really smooth. Got the rocker arms, the gills. Just need to do some hole work right here to fill in those that are just full of powder. I'm on to my very last fiberglass repair. I've repaired this one, this one, this one. The biggest thing that I had to repair was this crack that went down. So I cut it out, filled it with glass, and I had to build the ridge up again. And turned out okay. Now I'm just gonna sand this little spot off. Did the whole car in 120. I did some spots in 180, and then I did the whole car again in 220. Get some soap and water and wash it. Start taping up the garage. After that, I'll come in tomorrow, take the rest off, and do primer. I got it primered last night and I saw a bunch of issues with it. The primer kind of brought out a bunch of pinholes on the hood, which I couldn't see. I even used spray paint to try to find stuff like this. What I ended up doing for the pinholes, there were quite a few of them around here. So I used this and I went over it, and I went over some of the places that had deep scratches, and so I can sand it down. That seems to be the key to this. I didn't use that because I didn't know I needed it, but it's fixing like most of the problems I had around the headlights. Was still spiny. I sprayed these things. One thing that contour primer did though was it evaporated funny, and the previous guy used some pure fiberglass right here. There was a strip of it still right here I couldn't see, and the vapors pulled that off of the SMC. So I ended up pulling all of it and stripping it. It was like this. It was like chunks like this. Like big old chunks. So I took a blade and dug it completely off the SMC so I can recover that and I'll reprime it. Quite a task. I would say that. It is quite a task. Here is the result. I got 3 more coats on it. Here's what that fender ended up looking like. Have some drips and stuff, but those will sand out. Well, that's what the hood looks like. All covered up. Got rid of all those pinholes that were, there was a patch of pinholes here. Kind of smoothed out the edges. The door looks fantastic. Did not before. The other thing that I kind of knew wasn't going to turn out was the rear, but it turned out better than I thought. Man, it just turned out really cool. So now I'm gonna 400 wet sand it and get get ready to paint it tomorrow. Doing some corrections. I had two thin lines here. I didn't like them. So while the clear coat is still soft, I'm carving that out. I'm gonna re-prime it and redo it yellow so it's the same width as that line and it's consistent all the way back. I also had some giant overspray here, so I'm just gonna quickly correct that. I have some overspray there too. I'm not gonna fix that one because of the other imperfections, but that one just drove me nuts, and this line really drove me nuts. I know you're not supposed to do this, but I figured whilst the clear coat is still soft and I gotta sand the entire car anyway, I can create like a barrier and kind of spray and blend it a little bit, and it might not turn out, and if not, I'll redo the whole black part. I'm not too concerned about redoing the black if I have to. So I thought I'd try this before I redid all of that, and I don't know if it's gonna work, but here's to hoping, because I hope it works. Here's what we got going on right now. We're in the dead of winter. I have a little fire stoked over yonder. Just put a yellow strip right here. Then I'll fan it out, pull the plastic back to these lines, and kind of fan on some clear coat to blend it. There was a giant overspray spot right there, so I'm gonna prime it and yellow coat it and then fan out. Then pull back some borders and fan out some clear coat. And hopefully when I still have to sand and polish all the clear coat, and I probably already said this, and hopefully I can blend it. I'm not too worried about messing it up. I am more curious about trying to do this because I don't know if it can be done. I left a little bit of the yellow pinstripes that I had to try to blend into them a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. Sit rep while I can breathe. I have primered the pinstripe. Was actually significantly more difficult than it needed to be. I have primered the rear, which was even more difficult than the pinstripe. Had to use some heat gun on the back because of some chemical issues. Now I'm gonna get ready to blast this with some yellow. Here's how the pinstripe turned out. I just widened it to match that width. So now I had, again, some overspray. I even bought better tape, so it's got to be about my taping procedure that I got to change. But that's okay because that's on the clear coat that I'm going to sand off. You can see where I did it before. I'm going to come out. Obviously, I'll get over that. Probably come out and just feather it out to about here. Spray the whole width, then I can smooth it out. Well, here's the result before I sand. I took it, made that line go straight through. I would give it a 5 out of 10. Maybe a couple of reasons. One, I pulled the tape off too early and got junk in it, but that will sand out because it's just laying on top. Two, it might be too cold to be doing this because it kept blowing these chunks, and I'd have to fish these little chunks out of like goober stuff. And 3, I leaned on it. And so now I'm gonna have, that will sand out. It's kind of just annoying. 4, I sanded the 2 lines out to put this one big wide line in. And I used 180 to sand the trough out. And then I used 800 to smooth this out and open it up so the new clear coat would have something to attach to. But what I didn't do, because I was nervous about it, is where I hit with the 180, it's scratched up and the clear coat didn't feel it. So that's gonna be, you can't see it from here at all, but when you get right up into it, it looks like it's scratched up, and that's actually like 4 inches deep into clear coat. So overall, I think it looks better than it did. I mean, despite those tiny little marks, it's something that's gonna have to be redone eventually if you wanted it to be perfect, but I kind of like the look of this a lot better than it was. I am too impatient and I keep pulling this off and it keeps dumping debris into it. The rear is a different story. There was a big black spot there. And all it really did is just move the black spot over. It cleared up the part I painted really well, but that's where I taped off, and you couldn't see it, but so now I have a really nice spot with the rest of the back and still a black spot. And I tried to fill that in with yellow, and it's on a slope and the paint is just so thin it just drips off. So I would say the back's ruined. That's what I'd say about the back. That's okay. On a warm day I'll have to end up fixing it because that drives me insane. Overall I'm more thrilled about the top coming out like it did because I was worried about it, but worried about how I was gonna do that. But I mean, it came out better than it was. I just can't wait till it dries so I can polish things up. Kind of pissed off about that back part. I mean, the shape the car was in before is dramatically different from now, so not a big deal. Here's a little bit better view of what I fixed. Just having that line get up there. I think it turned out okay for not knowing how to do that. Turned out a-okay. A lot of blemishes all over. But man, that was fun. The hood turned out pretty good too. Like for there being a last minute change, I mean, turned out really smooth. And I know where some problems are, but it'd be hard to pick them out. I think it turned out pretty awesome. Better than I anticipated.